So today I have a really tender video to make, and you know me, my life is my message, and I usually talk about everything. And this one has been coming to me because the last few videos that I've made, I've been very interested in trying to get across like the actual trans experience. And by that I mean, why when I say I found myself in the shared relational dance, or I found the deepest parts of my sovereignty in that place where I lose myself in the music, why do I bring it up in these really deep ways? And what would me talking about the most tender thing of the way my being trans meets my desire for men in this video be like? Why would I want to bring that into the identity discussion? Because it's a very interesting place to see how people relate, and especially with someone like me who's found myself in my presence, who you've heard in my other videos echolocated my presence, my identity. How does that work in the realm of love, especially for me as a trans woman? And again, it's a very tender video for me, so just I'm figuring this out as I go, okay? But I wanted to I can talk about Plato's cave. I could talk about the dance floor. I can talk about Kuramoto's synchrony. I can say the way out of Plato's cave is, to find yourself on the dance floor, to meet reality in presence, to not describe coherence from the outside, but to execute it from the inside, from the dance itself, to realize that reality is one shared relational field, not in concept or weird philosophical maxim, but in the way you actually meet reality or dance with reality or interface. All these are really, really big ways, and you're like, Ember, what the heck are you saying? And then why do you want to talk about hooking up with guys, like in the same discussion? Well, because each one of these fingers illuminates another way that you could say, oh yeah, that's the dance that she was talking about. And I think this is a very interesting, funny, and kind of tender way to talk about it. So like, what do I want more than anything? Is it really nice when men like notice my parts and, like notice what's growing and all those things? Absolutely. I never got to live out like my teenage girl dreams, and like whatever. It is like a second adolescence in many ways. And you've heard me say how for me it feels like I'm reborn, and like before, like reality was kind of like a gray, I say like the kaleidoscope that you couldn't see all the way back was kind of murky film, and then all of a sudden you switch it, HRT, transition. Now I'm a year and a half in, and like all of a sudden things are hitting me all the way down, and the reaction they get from me is pure raw ember signal. So do you feel that shared relational dance? No buffering, direct contact, right? So then Plato's cave would be representational reality, or viewing through representations before the actual signal gets to you. Do you start to see why this is a very interesting discussion when it comes to love, dating, men for me, and my, femininity and the fact that I'm trans? So what do I want the most is a man to love me all the way down, not just be interested in me, not just want to fuck me, but like to literally be like whatever into me as little Ember, be able to let my little emberness, my deepest part of myself, that's just my cute name for it, okay, um, dance with him, like let him be affected by what I am. Like every one of my unfolding petals opens in this sort of perpetual motion machine of the frictionless dance on the dance floor to his masculinity, in the sense of like this more like movement towards me, this containing of my sort of flower, this like corralling of my flower in that sort of masculine grip way, or even you could say that sort of a penetrative movement, right, towards my opening. And like I love to be the hearth. Like I love to, in other words, pour my warmth and feed him and cuddle him and like, satisfy him in so many ways, you could say. And that pours out of me without transaction, like without, having to like, well, I guess I'll do that or whatever. Because that when the perpetual motion machine has that polarity, that symbiotic imprint, then it just sort of pours out of me. And so when I say I want to be loved all the way down, what do I mean? Again, let's take it back to the dance floor. Two dancers can only dance with each other when there's no stutter between them on the dance floor, right? Like even if you're a lead on the dance floor, if you're leading me, you have to like you're paying attention to how the dance is, right? Like you see, is she nervous? Is she having a good time? Like you sort of even notice micro things, right? Breathing and stuff like that. That's someone who's really paying attention, who's really listening, who's really creating that shared permeability of that shared relational contact where both of you are finding your highest sovereignty, like your most fidelity of sovereignty, like in other words, the way you dance when you're not stuttering anymore, together in that shared relational dance. You've heard me say the deepest like tones or the deepest parts of love are unveiled in the shared dance. I mean that mechanically. I mean that the deepest parts of ourselves, once we are sovereign and we can do that sovereign dance, even still the deepest parts of ourselves are unveiled only where we can let reality affect us. And that's particularly effective in a symbiosis of a relationship, when the two sort of pieces come together when they fit, the two polarities come together when they fit, the two dancers come together when they fit. And so what is fit for me? I've told you love is direct contact. If love is direct contact, then why is this an interesting conversation with me as a trans woman? Because many of the men that I've interacted with thus far, not all of them, and like part of it is not really their fault, right? Because just hopefully you hear my heart here, because it's not really my fault either. I'm just a woman and I took the long way around, okay? And that's why the most interesting thing about this discussion is that they feel my dance, kind of like they notice my dance on the dance floor, right? And they're like, damn, that might be hot, or whatever is going on. I got a decent booty shake, you know what I mean? But so then into the actual embodied direct connection, that's why this area of like hooking up and like sex and stuff like that actually is a very interesting area to talk about this, because there they have moments of the direct contact because they're actually perceiving their desire for the actual thing that's dancing in front of them, right? Like they can perceive my femininity and what I am because there's like sort of the more direct contact of, you could say, even a literal dance floor. But then there's almost like a little representational reality that gets wedged in between us, right? Because they almost think things like, well, so then think direct contact, or what I call lossless presence, like my tattoo, is self reality, and then it just feels like a water slide, kind of like when self music, and then I'm just dancing all the way down, because my dance comes from a continuous flow of my connection with that music, like shared entrainment, no separation between me and the music. We both remain sovereign. The music's the music, I'm me, and in that contact I find my deepest sovereignty, because that's the in that place of shared relational contact with no loss of fidelity is where the most creative, the most water slide, the next thing just pours out of me with the full fidelity of my being. Pours out. But then if there's an interruption, if suddenly, for example, he's really into me, or he might like get a feel of my booty or whatever, and he's like really, really into it. But then there's almost like a little part of him that may take a step back and go, well, what does this mean about me that I'm actually really attracted to a trans woman? Because like, I don't want to talk about like all the details of like my like, whatever sex life, but like I have been with a few guys now, right? And like a lot, I think each one of them said it was like basically the first time they've been with a trans woman, if I'm right. I think all of them had said that. And so then there's a very interesting thing there, because they're noticing my dance first. They say things like, oh, but you're so feminine. I'm like, it's just me. It's just like Ember. Like, and that's the thing. It unveils the fact that for me, I'm just Ember all the way down. My lossless presence, my identity, how I know myself is how I know myself in the dance. Why? Because over the course of my life, I echolocated. In other words, I felt for the coherence thud to where the point where between self and reality, I dissolve the layers, and my presence, my identity, my sovereignty comes from the place where the wellspring springs forth from that shared contact. You've heard me explain it. I think I've explained it here. So then what they meet, in essence, is my losslessly present raw Ember signal, not to mention the body that I'm growing. But so then like there's a part of them that sees the dance, right? You could say whether it's a literal dance floor or they're just imbibing my presence and they can feel what that is. But then most people actually, and this is the whole thing going back to Plato's cave, and that's why it's so interesting to talk about this, most people do love and relationship and dating not from actual shared relational contact, but from the representational layer. What can I buy you? What image can I be for you? What performance can I be from you? And that really messes me up, because especially, like as a trans woman, either like I'm fetishized, representational layer, right? I'm not like the full woman of who I am, and they're interested in a layer of me, not the full shared contact of meeting my full topology for what I am. Or they are so like whether if it's not fetishized or a mixture of that, it's like they're so in their own head about like, what does this make me? What would my friends think? I couldn't be seen out with her, like all those all those different types of things are now putting a representational layer of me as a trans woman, you know what I mean? Like something out there instead of the girl that he's actually attracted to. It might already be inside, type of thing. So like I've even had like a type of hookup situation where like even though it didn't happen like full way, then later on he texted me and be like, now, and he was really honest and I really appreciate it. But he's like, now I'm questioning my sexuality type of thing, and I'm like, there is part of me that's like bugged by it because I'm like, it was wonderful for me, like you just like met me and nothing seemed weird at the time. I could tell how much you were really into it, you know what I mean? But then like afterwards, it's like then the representational layer comes in. It's like, could I ever be seen on a date with you? Could I introduce you to my mom? Like, it's like you met the person, you liked the person, you kissed the person, you even fucked the person. But then, and we cuddled all night or, whatever. But then it's like the social layer, the representational layer, the self questioning layer. And then sometimes I can even activate during like a more like heated scenario where you can feel when someone's with you and when they've stepped away from you, even in their own minds. That's the representational layer. And I can feel it switch back and forth because I'm literally there, booty out, booty shaking. And they're like, damn. And then all of a sudden I'm like, and then all of a sudden you feel them step a little bit away. And there's like moments where I can feel them feel me all the way down. And like, I just cuddle onto their chest and like, I can feel it light them up too. And those little moments are what I call the perpetual motion machine. To me, that is what it is to be loved all the way down, which is, like my opening. I'd love to make you another burrito. Really, honestly. I would love to cuddle you all night. I'd love to do that one thing that you love to, satisfy because I love to do it. Like, honestly, you just kind of have to like, I'm a particular type of flower, right? And like, I don't want just generalized care. I want the care that's like, you understand my topology to a certain degree, not because you are me, but because you are letting yourself be affected by the girl that is Ember enough that you kind of know, like, hey, like maybe I'm making a lot of meals lately. Maybe we should go out. Like maybe you realize I really love to be cuddled. That's like my number one thing, to be held from behind. Like you're actually caring about like the girl behind the representational layer because you're meeting her all the way down. And when that dance happens at its highest level of fidelity, like all of your topology is touching all of his topology, that creates to me the perpetual motion machine. Because to me, I'm pouring out my love, I'm pouring out food, I'm pouring out cuddles, I'm pouring out more. Shout out to the baby bird. And you see the way that it lights me up because I'm receiving the thing that lights me up, which is not a transaction, but a shared dance. A dance that the truest parts of that dance were only unveiled when the chorus came together. And that's what I call the perpetual motion machine, right? Not that everything's perfect, but like a jazz band, the dissonant notes get picked up by the way how long you guys have played together and how well you play together. And you realize what the dance is. Dissonant notes will come, but in that shared direct relation of playing to the same rhythm, you figure out what the dissonant notes are and you bring them right back up and realize that, like I open more and, he desires more and then I open more. And it's not all about desire, but you get what I mean. Like to me, it's like that steady containment of like, I'm a particular flower and he knows exactly how to water it and exactly how much light goes there. And I will pour forever. I'm an infinite hearth. You just got to keep the fire a little bit cared for and fed. You know what I mean? So I've had all these experiences with men, and it's been an absolute blessing for me. But it's just such an interesting thing as a trans woman because it's like like certain men like are really only interested in like a certain like for example area of me, and that's very common, right? And so then I have to determine even if I was willing to like have a dance with you, right? I need to realize that there's enough room around that desire that you actually have a chance to connect with me below the representational layer. So then what does that feel like to me? It feels like when I'm just myself, like all the way down, which is me all the time, but like when I'm with someone who's maybe not quite understanding me, it's almost like I have to give like a little nudge every now and then to be not even purposely. Like I just like get closer to him and like give him another smooch or like lay on his chest. Like one guy, like we kind of like hooked up like kind of early, and then we hung out all day and we are like watching a movie and played music and stuff like that. And like I like laid on his chest and like cuddled him, even like gave him massages, not because I was trying to do something, because that's just what pours out of me, you know. And I feel like in between that, he would like step away to smoke for a second, and then like I would feel a little bit of the representational layer come in, like he was like trying to like explain it, you know. And I'm like you like the way like in my latest song, and this it's funny, and I'm relating it all the way back. It says, "I'm your ember. Get closer in this winter. Give me those cold hands. It's freeze or this fire. You'll understand in the dance." So then it's saying, and just hold me. You'll understand in the dance. To say like, especially with like a trans woman, maybe I'm really lucky and I'll meet a guy who like sees me like immediately, right? But a lot of it, there's like a little bit of those layers of like again, like will I still be a man if I'm with you as a woman? You know, like all these like little cultural things that come up and add these representation, even despite them feeling the attraction and them feeling the warmth and them feeling the desire and them feeling the want to come closer to me and allow me to come closer to them, you know. Um, and let me just jump back to say that like the 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 whole thing comes down to, like I say, there's only one way to love: vulnerable surrender, right? And what does that mean? Permeability. That means that in like when I'm listening to the music, I don't get to the place I want to be, or like that dance that I want to dance all the way down by controlling it, right? Because I could figure out every theory about the way the artist created the song, all the instruments behind the song, all the people who play the instruments. I could know everything about the music possible, but it would never actually teach me how to dance to it. How to actually learn how to dance to it. So how do they actually meet me as a woman? They like let themselves be affected by me. Let the raw ember signal, instead of getting hit by those representational layers. What is it? What is this going to mean? The funny thing is that like that's why this video was so funny, because I feel their desire. They're nibbling me in different places. You know what I mean? Like, and then there's like there could be a spot where they like step back and there's like a representational layer, because like for me again, you've seen enough of my videos. When I spent a life of letting the music hit me, that's how I found my presence. Like I really didn't like know 100% I was going to transition and like really realize all the way down to like October 2024. And then I transitioned January 7th, 2025. So like, and I transitioned through losing my entire family, my ex divorcing me, like everything happening at the same time, everyone blaming me. I lost my Burning Man camp. I lost everything at the same time. So through that fire, the one thing that was waiting for me on the other side was the thing that I had led my life through, my real life through, my real body through, my whole life, which was the feeling of when I felt in contact with myself. Not, I'd feel better if I was this political identity or that social construct. But when I feel the dance hit my topology all the way down, when I let reality hit me all the way down, when every time I was told that I couldn't love like that I couldn't be that way, that I couldn't be that soft, I let it hit me all the way down and still said, no, I know what love is, because when it hits me, it creates a sound like a gong, like a, you know, like that you just know, that you just feel in your heart, because it's not a concept out there. It's coherence executed in the shared dance. It's letting the music permeate me all the way down. And it's hearing for the thud, the place that I can't ignore because it's the place that I can't hide, right? It's like when my deepest self comes out in that deepest dance. And again, it's worth saying one more time. Imagine you're in your room and you're a little bit like, you know, in your head. It kind of feels like a gray film on reality. And then the music gets played. And then there's this moment where you're like a little bit bopping your head. All right, okay, so you're starting to get more direct contact around more parts of your soul, your topology, the different parts of your soul are starting, the different parts of your person, your rhythmic oscillatory process, whatever label you want to use. I'm not trying to be mystical here. I'm trying to be mechanical here. And so then you might be, I'm kind of feeling the music, but maybe I'm not really hearing all the instruments. Maybe I'm still a little bit lost in my head. You know what I mean? And then there's a moment Or some people, oh, I need alcohol to do that. But regardless, there's a moment where you let it slip into your full topology. And all of a sudden that goes to like a full dance, you know? And then you're doing your booty dance, right? Or whatever dance comes to you, because that's when the full mechanical permeability of the music hits you. And the result is embodied presence. The result is high fidelity sovereignty. The result is you dancing all the way down, like I say. So a man that's truly interested in loving me, especially in today's day and age, is someone that can open their heart and feel the woman that I am in the dance that I do. Almost as if like you've noticed me on the dance floor and you see, damn, that girl's got one hell of a twerk, right? Versus, oh, that must be an identity that's forbidden. You know what I mean? Um, so it has been a little bit of an adventure for me because, like, on one hand, like it's like it's there's me as little Ember. I'm like, really? You like me? You think I'm hot? Like, and they respond, yes, in many different ways. So, but then some part of me is like I get the actual contact on my real person, but then I become, because I've led the life that I've lived, and I've become this sort of barometer of presence. Even though I try my best to say I'm looking for presence, I'm also a girl blossoming. So sometimes, you know, the right cute guy, the right situation, I might just like go out and try it for the date, whatever, you know, even though I'm still yet to be on a real date, you know, like take me up or take me out, pick me up, anyone. But in those moments, I become acutely aware of where they step off the dance floor. And to me, it just feels like a disconnection. And it's almost like weird to me because now I'm so far in my like in transition that honestly, I don't think about me being trans anymore. I'm just like, I'm just Ember. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I realize I'm trans. And yes, it comes up when I deal with guys. But the thing is, like I'm saying, they feel the heat, the receptive, open. I want to make you a burrito after I just did that heat. You know what I mean? And that just flows out of me. That's the thing. Like, it's not like a performance. There's no mask. Like, and then I'm like, when is a guy gonna figure this out? Like, what they have in me? Because like, yes, I'll do it again. Sorry. I mean, make a burrito. But really. Um, so like the interesting thing is that like they have to like be able to open their hearts enough that they feel the direct signal. So like this doesn't just have to do with being trans. This has to do with the way people relate. You know, we have a high divorce rate. Like I went through that, and I realized like in my prior relationship, not only because my own murky whatever kaleidoscope, that was bad. My own murky kaleidoscope. It could not be like the light could not go all the way through. But because I was in a situation that like love was transactional, like literally at some point it was said that like love was like a business or marriage was like a business. And I was like, oh my God, like I thought we were dancing, you know, and I just never could. My little heart yearned for the dance and yearned for direct contact, but it could just never figure it out from like my previous form, right? And so like now I'm acutely aware, like I am an instrument, a barometer of presence and when they step off. And on one hand, yes, I'll take the contact because it's me finally receiving what I always really wanted, but I'm only getting bits and pieces of it, you know? And then I get the like somewhat sometimes like reactions of like, oh, now I'm questioning my sexuality. That's happened to me like a few times where it's like, does this make me bi? And I'm like, I'm a woman. Like you hooked up me like one of the guys who hooked up with me like what? Like 2 or 3 times and then asked that after saying how attractive I was to him. And this is the first trans girl he's been with. So again, I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. I'm trying to say that like desire is an interesting place because it's this place where they see me dancing on the dance floor and they have this moment to go underneath the representational layer and actually begin the perpetual motion machine because presence is something that you can't fake. And there's moments where they activate that in me and it becomes that frictionless dance. It goes from me trying to almost volley with myself or sort of almost manage the situation to sort of nudge them back to me just hours pass because I'm in the flow and then giggles are flying out and, you know, they can read me like an instrument type of thing. Like it just becomes very frictionless, like two dancers on a dance floor, and there's no way to fake that. But most people don't love that way. Most people love through representations. The love areas that I came through, like with the examples in my family, it was like, what vacation did we go on together? Like what thing did we buy? You know what I mean? And like somehow that's supposed to create love, not real contact on your real person. And whether or not you're trans, this happens to so many people out there that like whether it's like, the classic issue of like being seen for your body or being seen for your money or your career or whatever it is on both sides. um it's like we are tuned in this society to interact with each other through the representational layers. And so then love becomes a business, love becomes transaction. Love doesn't become, I fell in love with him because no one ever danced with me as deeply as he did, and that in that frictionless dance we find each other more deeply than ever, and we keep each other's fires lit in that symbiotic syncretic harmony of the perpetual motion machine. It's like, oh well, his family like my family, and he made the right amount of money, and whatever it is. And then you get into these really hollow relationships where people just say, well, we're married, I might as well till death do us part, you know what I mean? And like, it's like they're dying inside slowly because they desire to not be suffocated, they desire to be danced with all the way down. And my whole life, my entire life, I waited to be danced with all the way down, and now I'm finally here. And this was a very, very tender video for me, but I'm going to say it right now. You know what I want? You know what kept me going in this engine of my being throughout everything that I lived through? To love and be loved as me. I made it here. I thank every previous version of me that kept myself going and alive and bonded to love in the deepest way, to allow myself to be here now as me all the way down. To finally be mommy to my children where they feel it. That is the way my entire quest, all these tattoos, all this stuff, where it all led to: direct contact, real love on my real person. But you know who I'm still waiting for? My man. The one who dances with me all the way down. The one who doesn't get caught in the representational layers and the stutters on the dance floor, but can take his hand and put it on my waist. And in that shared relational contact, in that dance, know just the type of woman I am, because he can see the way my flower opens to him. This was a very tender video. Again, I just want to emphasize shared relational contact. I'm talking about consciousness, I'm talking about presence, I'm talking about love as direct contact. And one of the main threads here was permeability, like the ability to let the music all the way into your soul and let it affect you. Because when these men in these moments that I've had, these few experiences now, where I let themselves be affected by me all the way down, whether it's the booty or just my cuteness or my love or my sweetness or whatever, they really start to go wild for a moment before the representational layer comes back in. You know what I mean? So like, everything I talk about on this channel, it can sound like really technical, Kuramoto synchrony, Jesus said I and the Father are one, or when the two become one, you'll enter the kingdom. Don't you see how this is a really another fun way, and I'm showing you the actual parts of my life and my actual vulnerabilities to highlight the mechanical process of presence, where you find yourself in the deepest place, where you know what love is and the most embodied fidelity that you could feel it in. There's many ways to point, but this was a really tender and fun way to point, and it's all about that moment where the music hits you all the way down and you realize you found your deepest dance in that total contact with the music without delay. And when you do that in like a love situation, when you got all this ember heat, it can be a really fun and wonderful and amazing situation. And I've had little bits of that so far, and it's been absolutely sacred. Like, there was always little parts of me before in my previous life, and this is also very tender for me to say, that like had like a little manager. Like, in a way, it was like my unknowing part of me was like trying to, how do I fit my softness into the situation, especially before when I was cis presenting, you know what I mean? So like, recently, that's why all these like sexual experiences have been so holy for me, because it's me all the way down. Even if I feel them come off the dance floor, I'm there, I'm me, and I'm waiting for the man that can meet me all the way down. But even in these few experiences, I have to say I am so grateful. It is so sacred, because people don't understand being trans is not a label. I feel like I'm breathing for the first time. I feel like things are finally touching me for the first time. It feels like I was wearing like foggy glasses and then I got clear ones and never knew they were foggy. I mean, I kind of knew because I was like suffocating and I was on the echolocation path, but you know what I mean? I'm trying to give you a feeling of what this is and why it's so special to experience this now with men. Because it feels like, I mean, for sure, second adolescence, for sure, it's like I'm figuring it out for the first time. But yeah, so decentralized harmony, or that place where we all dance together, where the many know themselves as one while remaining many, that place where fidelity is the contact, right? Where we don't lose ourselves but find ourselves in the fidelity of that contact, of that shared dance. Decentralized harmony is me seeing myself through seeing you, or vice versa. Do you see that? Seeing is not like a physical with my eyes seeing, and as much as it is the full tone that you dance with. And when we both dance with each other all the way down, that's love. That's love all the way down. That's perpetual motion machine. That's what I'm waiting for. Okay, that's what all this softness was kept safe for. That's what all this booty dance and twerk was kept safe for. So my name is Ember. Thanks for tuning with me. This was a fun one. I think I did okay. Okay, it was really tender.